one of the biggest frustrations, I think, when you have bear periods or any sort of disruption in what we normally expect of cryptocurrency is desperation. Outside of desperation, we also have, unfortunately, people who will take advantage of the situation and they will play on your fears and they will do whatever they can to try to get in front of you and ultimately take your money. And I listen, I understand that that's a thing. I don't know that that are new in crypto really understand that that's happening. And they seem to believe the best of everybody. And I wish people would stop doing that, to be quite candid. Not because you shouldn't be optimistic, but rather we know that it's a bear period. And that means that I think you should take a step back and breathe, stretch, shake, let it go, like Mace likes to say, and kind of just ask questions. All I'm asking, all I've ever asked, whether it's here on the YouTube or at cryptotalkradio.net for our podcast, I want people to simply ask questions. And I don't think that people are asking the right questions if they are asking questions. So something came up on my radar and I was read the moment I saw this, not because of anything other than the one basic flaw in what they have, because they did a passable good job of trying to convince people that it's legit and that it's serious and that it's got all the best intentions. This is Lunatics Token, lunaticstoken.com. If you want to check it out on the Binance Smart Chain, I encourage you to do so. Mind you, this was brought up and the summary of this was, we are creating this token so that we can help with the burns for Luna Classic, right? Now, if we accept their argument, they're just here to make everything better with, or at least help anyway, with the Luna Classic burn. And I've covered the Luna Classic and the Terra Rebels, and I've said, manage your Hopium. And many of you didn't understand what I meant by that, right? Manage your Hopium simply means I'm not telling you that something is definitively going to happen. I'm saying that we can hope it might, but be realistic, it's highly improbable. So Lunatics Token gets launched on the Binance Smart Chain. Right off the jump, they do a pink sale pre-sale. And if you've heard me at any point, you know I automatically am skeptical of tokens that do pink sale pre-sale because they often crap. Whether that's because of pink sale or not is irrelevant. The point is, almost to a T, when they do that, they seem to crap at some point in the future. I'm going to get to a little bit more specifics about that a little bit later. Their site, like I said, lunaticstoken.com, if you want to take a look at it. They do have a white paper, if you can call it that. I wouldn't call it a white paper. I would call it a marketing slick. And they already have things that stand out as extremely concerning. Private sale, 20%. Vesting period, quote, vesting period will apply to private tokens. So yes, there's a private sale, but we're doing vesting. Pre-sale tokens, 35%, 35 billion, but does not say that there's any sort of vesting applied to the pre-sale tokens. Okay, so that's why. Why would you not apply vesting to everything that you're giving in advance of the thing? Okay, so then they got the phases. There's no dates. So that's a problem already. We're going to set the thing up. We're going to raid the Luna Classic Twitters. We're going to go after a shiller. They called out the shiller by his name, which is a blue check mark. And you heard me talk about that. An audit with some firm nobody knows about. It's not Desert Finance, so I already don't rate it for what it is. And then they claim that they're going to be doing all these other things to bridge on blockchains and all this other stuff. Well, they said that there's a pink sale fair launch coming here soon. I see that it went live and it's been doing what it's doing. Then they're talking about NFTs and all this other garbage. And then they've got the quote team, and apparently Duncan Gray, this shiller, is at the head of this business, and then nobody else has a real name. Okay, well, that bothers me. So then they've got a developer, and apparently they outsourced the development, so they named the developer there, and then they've got pseudo names of certain people and their faces, which may or may not be fake photos. I can't say it is or isn't. Social media all over creation and all that other good stuff. Again, what they call a white paper, I wouldn't call a white paper. I'd call it like some kind of a marketing slick. The audit, quote unquote, that was performed was done by a contract checker. And again, this is not one that I would rate at all. It's nice looking, but I wouldn't really rate it. And I had a big concern with something that they said on it. So here's what they did. They called out privileges and they have a color coding, and they called certain things out as low risk that I would not call low risk at all. And as I read through the audit findings, I mean, it's decent, but it's not great because they basically gave them a passing score on everything. Well, we know that's garbage. Why do we know that's garbage? I took the contract address and I read it through everyone's favorite tool, or it should be, MarketMove.ai. MarketMove.ai came back and said, well, your contract's got some issues here, and it's the only thing that's got issues. The holders aren't an issue, the taxes aren't an issue, but the contract's certainly a problem. When I went down to the contract area, there's a lot of issues, but the one thing that really stood out really bad is, quote, function transfers all tokens to owner. The owner of this contract can transfer all of the funds to themselves. Once the contract accumulates funds, they can be taken. Well, let me break down what that is implying, right? If you have anything in the code that is designed to route tokens to the contract address, this says that the owner basically can drain off the contract. They can just drain it, drain. So rather than doing a straight rug pull, or rather than doing a straight, liquidity steal or an exit scam or anything else, just basically have the contract pay the owner. That's essentially what that function means. It's in the code. If anybody wants to see it, you're looking for a line that says payable owner transfer balance. That's what that's doing. There's all sorts of other issues as far as addresses. So dividend token addresses, and these are set functions, meaning that they can be changed. So then the concern on this was, well, normally you would preset these, right? So for example, if I look at one of these functions, the liquidity wallet, normally you would preset the liquidity wallet, or normally you would preset the marketing wallet, or preset the dev wallet, or do something else. The reason it's a concern is because a malicious actor might surreptitiously swap that address to just be their own personal address and do, right? Now, this was not called out as a high deal simply because most developers will want to have the flexibility to possibly change addresses. For example, let's say that there's a breach or they get hacked or something else to where they can quickly change the address out so that they're not held hostage because this is not renounced. So they want to have total control over managing the contract. So that makes it a low simply because a lot of them do it. However, I consider it a high risk because of the fact that they have the other function that lets them transfer all tokens to the owner. If they didn't have that one and they had notes, which they don't in their code, that explain, okay, we see this function, we know it's a concern, here's why we're doing it, to be more transparent about why it's that way, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Or if they simply renounced the contract, or if they went on ever own, if they did something that removes their ability to do it unless the community is aware that they're going to do it and why, then I wouldn't have an issue with it. But the fact that they have that, I would consider that a strong concern. So they did a good job in the presentation, although they did the pink cell pre-sale, which I think was a mistake, and they did a decent passable job in getting it out to the world and getting it all set up and doing all this business. And there's not a lot of whale holders, although it does look to me like a lot of people might have bought in pretty deep amounts of supply. Like you have a lot of people that have 1 billion tokens or just shy of 1 billion tokens. And even though it's not a large amount overall, I mean, the circulating supply is just under 90 billion. So it seems like as you do the burns, you might be getting into the situation where certain people are going to dump off the thing and cause excessive volatility. So number one is their ability to change these addresses, pretty much all of the addresses at will. And so they're not exposed in the contract to the degree that you can see them. They're a function that can be changed because it's not renounced and because it's not ever owned. So that's number one. Number two is the amount of tokens, because they did the pre-sale and the private sale, setting aside the private sale, there's investing. But the pre-sale, I think, is a concern because those people could eventually cause excessive volatility with the contract. Now, I would assume that they would come back and say, it's all about burning a new class of deep, and that's fine. But I do think that certain fundamentals should have been thought out before putting out something like this. Also, I question putting it on the Binance Smart Chain. I understand it's the easiest to roll one up, but if I thought they were serious, I would have assumed that they would want to target a different chain than the Binance Smart Chain simply to make sure that there was no even the remote chance that they were going to get scammed off something else. That's my personal opinion based on the Binance Smart Chain and what I've seen in the past. Lastly, I would have liked to have seen a Desert Finance audit to truly trust the audit results, as I currently don't, because that contract checker deal didn't even flag the fact that basically the owner can drain all the money out of the contract as a high risk, and I would consider that a significant high risk. So my summary, If you look at that green candle and you cannot risk it, and you want to be Kenny Rogers and you want to roll the dice, see what it makes for you, by all means, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm simply calling out what I see. I think I understand what they were trying to do, but I would have rather seen that more fundamental thought was put into the project and that we thought it through a little bit more, because if they were serious, these are obvious things. Some of these things are obvious things that I think could have been addressed to make the contract stronger in the eyes of prospective investors. That said, everybody is free to do whatever they're going to do with their own money. I am simply a messenger, providing the information that you also can verify yourself. LunaticsToken.com on the Binance Smart Chain if you want to check it out.